everybody, and welcome to Causing Chaos, the Trouble Show. I have an amazing guest for us today who we've just met. We've become fast friends and we just can't stop talking. So I thought, what better way than to share, her views on this show. So Jess is unbelievable. So she's redefining adaptive fitness, yeah, an advocate for inclusion, and we're going to talk a little bit about that shortly. Proving that disability doesn't mean disability, and we're going to talk a lot about. We're all in that group actually, and we're going to double click on that at some point. She's the founder of Flex for Access, an author, medical writer, true movement maker, and an incredible speaker. So, Jess Silver, it's just unbelievable to have you on the show. Thank you for joining. Where are you coming from, and what's
Thank you
happening
for
in your
having
life?
me. I
Australia.
am joining you all the way from Toronto, Canada,
Whoop, whoop.
and very excited to be here. And hopefully, our paths will cross, and one day I'll make it to LA and maybe even down to Australia. I am very excited to be here to cause hopefully a little bit of permissible chaos, I will call it, relevant to the fitness industry. So I'm very excited to be talking to you about my background and how I got into the industry through a personal angle. But then from my personal story, it branched out into something a lot bigger than that. So I'm very excited to talk to you about that and talk to you and your viewers about the disruption that needs to happen, safe disruption, I'll call it, that needs to continue to happen within and across the fitness industry, and how I'm advocating for that, and also the work of my nonprofit organization.
Oh, look, that sounds great. So we're going to get straight into it. Look, it's 2025, as we all know. We've done sort of Me Too, we've done DEI, we've done Black Lives Matter, we've done LGBTQIA, we've done, and by this, I mean, I don't mean we're done. I don't think we're resolved. I don't think we're fully integrated around all these challenges and these opportunities. But I would say that, we still are not inclusive in the broader sense for all people. And that's going to be one of the central topics in this discussion. We talk about access, and in our world, it's fitness gyms, clubs, facilities, things in the health and wellness realm is pretty much where our conversation is circling today. We talk about functional training. But if your gym isn't functionally inclusive, it's actually broken. So, when I look out there, I see a lot of club owners, and everyone's honestly, hand on heart, trying to do the best job that they can. I think people are inherently good people. I think they're trying to do the best for their communities, and we still have some challenges. So, Jess, fill us in. What is broken right now? When you look at the world, I see a gym. What do you see?
I think, well, the gym for me is a central space, a central arena that I operate in because I've been training at a functional fitness level for the last 18 years at a high performance functional fitness level. But when I say that, I need to backtrack a little bit for all of the viewers here today and say that I've really been engaged in movement-based approaches and movement-based therapies my whole life because I was born with a condition called cerebral palsy, which is a neurological disability, actually the most common disability that babies are born with. And the only way that I could manage my condition was to consistently move and consistently engage in therapies that bettered my quality of life through movement and through managing, muscle tension, which related to my condition is called muscle spasticity, for those who don't know. And but it wasn't so I've been engaged in these therapies and approaches my whole life. But when I was 16 years old and I met my who would become the owner of my gym at the time, but he had an in-home studio at the time. My life was changed because I really saw how important fitness is to me, but not only physically. It became, and I find myself saying this often, it moved from something that I have to do to something that I'm really passionate about and that I want to do. And now when I think of the fitness industry and I see a gym, and like you said, all of the gym owners and fitness industry leaders are doing the best they can or coming at it from their knowledge center, their point of view, right? Their perspective. They're doing the best they can. But when I look at the industry and I also look at the health care field, And I know a lot about the healthcare field because I know how medical professionals have perceived my condition over the years. And getting older, that perception is, changing, shifting even more. I see there being a lot of gaps, and I see the gym as being central to the RX, the prescription for health and wellness and quality of life improvement for individuals like myself who are part of special populations. But what I see happening is that it's not really happening. We have a lot of this conversation surrounding inclusion and corporations making it part of their mandates to be inclusive as part of their policies. But how many individuals do you actually see who have physical disabilities in a gym? So, what I see, I'm an adaptive fitness consultant, an adaptive fitness personal trainer myself. I became a adaptive fitness personal trainer in 2020 because I saw the gaps, have seen the gaps that exist. And I understood that, me being an individual with lived experience, I have more of a responsibility with, to be helping individuals who are in a similar situation to me, as well as fitness industry leaders to educate them. Because if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Um, and what I see is that there are gaps that exist in the programming knowledge, like exposure to programming that exists for even if you look at like theoretical courses related to kinesiology and health promotion and sports medicine, there are gaps because you literally, and I've spoken to trainers about this, my trainers included, they had like one unit during their university career where they focused on special populations. Beyond that, it's not something that's prioritized. So, it's interesting because there's this talk about inclusion. There's more of a push here in Canada, I know in the States as well, on the AODA Act for accessibility, infrastructural accessibility, and policies related to accessibility when it comes to communications and employment. But what I've seen is that physical activity and adaptive fitness are not prioritized at all. And I know this because I work directly with fitness industry professionals who tell me that they haven't done it because they're overwhelmed or they don't know where to start, or they feel like, having one or two clients that are part of a special population, does that really bring them return on investment? And the argument would be, I have to invest so much into making my gym accessible infrastructurally. We're not even talking about the programming. Does it make sense for me to do? And most of them will say no. Well, I can tell you that as an individual who's part of that special population, I don't want to, make it sound cliche, but if I didn't have exercise and training, I would not have a very big part of me. And the reason why, this is closest to my heart and why I really feel like I relate strongest to athletes at a high performance level. I'm not about to call myself a high performance athlete. I have a lot of work to do to get there, but the reason why I most strongly relate to them and why I really got into this, became passionate about this work is because I know that all of the adversity that I faced, the way that I perceive it and the way that I'm able to manage it is to realize that I'm like an athlete, and an athlete every day who trains at a high performance level has to go through the ebbs and flows and many more ebbs than there are flows and injuries and setbacks than they want to, when they're on their professional sport and fitness journey. But what I'm seeing is that there's a miscommunication when it comes to inclusion. What does that really mean? From a policy perspective, from a communications perspective, from a programming perspective, like an educational perspective, to actually making facilities adaptive when it comes to equipment and programming. And I'm more and more inspired to do the work that I do to close those gaps and to educate fitness professionals so that fitness is not seen as something inspirational that individuals who are part of special populations do, but it's essential to everyone's quality of life.
I mean, you hit on that just so beautifully. So given that we are where we're at, and you've already brought it up, I have 3,000 members, and I'm looking at a fairly, and I don't use the word lightly, normal, population. So I'm serving them. We have a limited resource, people are overworked, overwhelmed. We know all of these things. What are some simple things? So when you're out there consulting and you'll go into a business and you'll say, let's do this, this, and this. What are some simple things that we can do as a first step without maybe completely having to, I don't know, relay everything out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars? Like, what are the steps into this?
I'd say the very first simple step, and again, it might sound cliche, but hopefully not, because it's not something that's done at the industry and professional level, and on the human factor of interaction with disability. I would say that the simplest step is to communicate. If you're a fitness industry professional, like we are, you and I are, and we're consistently looking to improve. Hopefully, that's why we're in the industry, to improve the lives of individuals that we work with, and create changes, then you want to consistently build and you want to modify and you want to challenge yourself to be better and you want to inspire your clients to do the same. Well, guess what? I feel like if professionals are not doing that by challenging individuals who are part of special populations to be better, because many of those individuals might come from, maybe broken homes or very difficult life circumstances. We need trainers and fitness industry professionals and healthcare professionals to stand up and back those people up, because otherwise, you can feel very alone and it can be a very downward spiral. But I would say simplest step is to communicate and ask questions first. And, as a fitness industry professional, say, hey, I really want to learn more about how I can make my facility or my programming that I'm, working through on a daily basis more adaptive. What does that mean? What does that mean for my own gym? Ask that question, communicate what you're looking for, on an individual basis, and then also assess how your business aligns with the broader sort of scope of accessible principles. And one of the ways that I assist with that and can assist other industry professionals with that, and I'm looking to do more of, is through the ebook that Flex for Access has. So Flex for Access, as you mentioned, Emma, is my nonprofit organization. And a very large part of the work that I stepped into doing was adaptive fitness education, because again, mentioning the gaps that I've seen and have been worried about on a personal level. Because I'll be honest with you, sometimes I've even felt like there aren't many professionals that I could work with. And that's a very scary and dark feeling when you have an individual who's trying to take initiative to make a change and there's no professionals out there who can guide them. So
Right.
Flex for Access ebook was designed to educate industry professionals on what is adaptive fitness, what are some of the principles of adaptive fitness, how can we adapt our communication practices to be more inclusive, not patronizing, might I add, but more inclusive. Um, and, how does mindfulness and mental toughness fit into performance and sports specific skill as well? And we created this ebook, which is available for purchase through Flex for Access's website, that's designed to be a helpful tool for fitness industry professionals and for organizations and municipalities that I have worked with and I'm looking to increasingly do that. So it's a matter of, I would say, simple steps, communication, asking questions, or maybe asking questions comes first, then communicating, where you align, or where maybe you don't feel that you're aligned, and how can I get better? And then using tools like the ebook that we've created, Adapt to Empower, which is available on Flex for Access's website. Um, and also engaging with individuals like myself who have the lived experience, who can actually come into a space and do an audit and say, hey, this is what would make a gym more accessible. And I also do those audits and that consulting virtually as well.
Great, that sounds great. So there's one tool. First of all, buy and read the ebook. Like I think that's just a given, just to understand the space. Now you talked about a couple of things which has really got my mind going. you got to a point where we're not just training bodies and look, everyone needs to move and we have enough barriers if everything's going in our direction. It's let alone I don't feel welcome, I can't get in there, there's nothing adapted for me. Like I can't even imagine. So at some point this became not so much a physical endeavor but a shift in mindset. So you've got mindset. Another thing that you spoke about, which I want you to talk a little bit more about, was don't be condescending. Now, we hear this a lot about age conversations. We hear this a lot about any of the sexes, anything at all. People are like, don't do this, do this. So tell us a little bit more about that. So if we were to do communication that felt inclusive for special populations, yourself and the many, many, many other groups of people who are in some sort of special population, how do we go about that? Talk to me about the condescending, talk to me about the behavioral change, thought change.
Well, what I've seen on a personal level, and this has transpired into professionally too, but I'll speak first from a personal level, is that individuals, when they see someone in a wheelchair like myself, I use a power wheelchair, and I also have a manual wheelchair, and I've been using a power wheelchair more recently as I've gotten into adulthood because I want to be faster. I need to be faster to get from point A to B. And what I've seen is that I'll go into somewhere, I'll walk into a space, or I was even in the gym when I used to go to the gym, when I was training there, and someone will see me and they'll go, "Oh, you broke your back. Oh, you have a spinal cord injury. Oh, this happened to you." And then they're like, and then they proceed to say, "What are you doing in the gym? How can you train because you're paralyzed?" And I go, "No, no, 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 no. Like, first of all, I am not paralyzed. I have this condition. This is the way that I am limited." So what I've seen is there's a lot of assumption
Right.
first of, "Oh, you can't do this because you have this." And then there's a lot of, "I'm so sorry because you have this and you're different because of your challenge. How do you do all the things you do in your life? It must be so hard." The first thing I'm going to say to be inclusive is to not make assumptions and also not patronize the person and don't talk down to the person. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the mall and I've been in a store, for example, you know, uh, to use that interaction, and people will not talk to me initially. They'll start talking to my mom, or they'll start talking to my husband, whoever I'm with, because I recently got married. They won't talk to me first. They'll talk to the person that I'm with. And I've actually said, "I'm right here. I can talk. I can tell you what I need. Thank you." Um, and I think that there's a lot of, because people kind of don't know how to be inclusive. Again, it goes back to that fear, where I think the complacency emerges from, right? The fear, and they don't want to hurt someone when they're saying it. But ironically, when you assume and when you start to say, "Oh, I need to do this to make sure that my programming caters to your limitations," or "You can't do this," as a trainer, as a physiotherapist, I've heard that before from physiotherapists where they say, they come and they work with an individual like me on a goal-oriented basis, and they give you like 5 sessions to reach that goal, which makes no sense to me. How can you reach a goal in 5 sessions? And even if you reach that goal, don't you want to move beyond the goal? But many of them would say, "Oh, no, you're not capable of reaching this goal because you have so many limitations. Therefore, we shouldn't even be trying to achieve this goal." So I think there's a lot of confusion, if I can call it that, when it comes to properly communicating. And I think it might sound cliched, but I think it's most important for us to and the industry and all individuals for that matter, to recognize that individuals that have physical disabilities, intellectual disabilities, I mean, with intellectual and cognitive disabilities, it's a little bit different because it depends on the level of impairment, but still, it's most important and crucial as human beings to recognize that these are all people and they need to be engaged in conversations and in aspects of life in all ways. Like, one of the best ways to do that when it comes to exercise is ask the individual what they've done. So this is what I always say. What has been their previous exposure to exercise? If they haven't had previous exposure, why is that? Or what is it that they want to learn? what brought them to communicating with you, the trainer, whether they're doing it virtually or in person, and how can we adapt the exercises, or do they have ideas for us to adapt exercises, or it's a matter of being creative. And on the part of the professional, that's what I think is most rewarding for the fitness professional is for them to tap into their skill set and be creative and be more challenged than, doing an everyday class that they do because this client has different needs. So not to see it as, I always say, this is a line that I always say when I do guest lectures, or something along these lines of not to be afraid of the challenge, but to use the limiting factor, I'll call it that, because I say that everybody has limitations, right? To use that limit as a way that can, as a vehicle to find greater strength. And I can say that from my personal experience working with my trainers that I've been blessed to work with, they have said to me that they didn't have a lot of first exposure working with an individual like me, and they actually felt motivated and challenged to do more being creative through working with me. So, not to be afraid of the challenge and to use the limit to push both the professional and the client forward in achieving their goals, and also maybe even defying what's physically and emotionally possible as well.
Great, I love that. You've covered off so many things. So, first of all, there's a visibility issue. So, we tend to be scared of or we're unsure how to approach new situations, which is perhaps we don't know people in wheelchairs or we don't know people who present in a particular way. So, there's a familiarity, and that goes to everything communication, marketing. You and I had a wonderful discussion around, I was in Target recently, or Target, and there was a wonderful photo of a kid in a wheelchair, and there's that lovely ad where the kid goes, "Oh, look, someone just like me." So, it was, we have to see it to normalize it, and I mean that in the, get used to it so we can get beyond the it and actually, treat each other like humans. But there is this feeling, and I think some people are getting better, other people will walk a wide girth around it. So I think there's work to do there. The other thing is, it's interesting. I went through phys ed school in New Zealand, and in our particular intake for our year, each year about 100 students would go through physical education school. So people who are being trained to do physical ed in schools and beyond. And we had two gentlemen who were in wheelchairs when we were there. And, it's interesting. I think back, and it was just so normalizing, again, not the word normal, but it was just so regular for me to see them turn up, be joking around just like the boys, getting drunk with us all, playing basketball with us all, like all of it, and joking along. And so it literally is that. It's a true integration. So I think that's missing in sort of in the world. I want to pick up on something you and I talked about offline, and that was around limitations. If we live long enough, and even as we live through life, we're all going to have something that limits us. Talk to us a little bit about how you see that, because I think that gives us an understanding of how we should be dealing with others.
Well, what I will say is that right now the percentage of individuals who have disabilities around the world, I think now is slightly over 15%. And people tend to think that that's not a large percentage and a large margin. And I'm going, if you think about it, it is. And the fact that people have this, again, I don't want to come across as too bold and, offending any of your viewers here, but the fact that people think of it as, oh, I see that this happened to this person, or, Jess Silver has a physical disability. They might say, "Oh, I feel really bad, and I'm a good person, so I wish that these individuals didn't have to struggle so much." But people have a tendency to believe that unless it happens to them, they're not really touched by it. But I think that we're living in 2025, almost 2026, and the bell needs to go off where we can't think, and healthcare professionals and fitness industry professionals can't think, oh, if I don't know someone directly, or if it hasn't, God forbid, affected me directly, then it's irrelevant to me. I think that healthcare professionals, and specifically because we're talking about fitness industry professionals today, have a responsibility, like I was saying, that I felt I had when I became an adaptive fitness personal trainer, to be the ones to say, no, we have the skill set, we have the ability to make powerful change that is actually life changing. It is not just like, wow, this person was able to lift 50 pounds during a session of training with me. No, they were actually able to stand up from the wheelchair, for example, transfer out of their chair, stand up with an assistive device, maybe a cane, or maybe even independently. And without my help, this is how fitness industry professionals should think about it, to look at themselves as the agents for physical and emotional change for individuals who are part of the special populations. And I just wanted to go back to something you said about the integration, like about how it's so important to integrate individuals who have physical disabilities or disabilities of other natures into, for example, the fitness space and other aspects of life. I think that this might turn your point on its head, um, that you had made when you were talking to me about it. I think that we need to get away from, oh, we have to do this because it's the right thing to do, but we need to look at it as these people are people, like I said, right? And we are all the people, we as in the general public and the general population everywhere in the world are all people, and we can't look at everything that an individual does as something that's inspirational or so different. It's time that I think we kind of, and again, I think this might be a very bold statement, close our eyes on, looking at visible differences or even invisible differences and acknowledge that these people are people. And we need to, I'm going to say we on behalf of fitness industry professionals and healthcare professionals, we need to serve them, because that's the language that you used when you were talking to me about it, in a way that is equitable and that is meaningful for them and that is meaningful for me, because at the end of the day we all wake up with a purpose, and part of that purpose is to hopefully make a change in someone's life. But I think there kind of needs to stop this idea of, oh, we need to integrate these people because they deserve a chance to be integrated. No, we're in 2026. Like, why does it matter what color a person's skin is, or how they walk, or how they speak, or what somebody has, if they have a facial difference? That does not matter. And I think that what I have seen, even like on, when it comes to employment on a personal level, and I was talking to you about corporate wellness and fitness, which is something I want to talk about if we'll have time as well. We're moving towards inclusion, like you said, but at the beginning, are we really? Because something I've seen here in Canada, I don't know what it's like in the States, it's probably the same, but in Australia, I don't know what it's like, where they ask you to disclose if you have a disability when you're applying for a job. And then the next question is, can you disclose the nature of your disability? Now, I tend to have a problem with that, because if I'm doing a communications job, or if I'm working as a fitness consultant, what does that have to do with what
Anything.
I'm doing? When I answered yes, do you think I got a follow-up interview? No. We're falling short in our definition of inclusion and in what we're doing to improve conditions and actions, and the way that communication is being articulated across platforms. Also, to talk about communication and utilizing a tool for communication, which we're all very attached to, is social media. Yes, if you use it properly, it's amazing, but it can also be a very ugly tool, in the sense of, if somebody wants to bully somebody, or, really be terrible towards another person who, they feel superior to, they can very quickly do that. And I've been a victim of that too. So, there's that as well. And I apologize if we got off on a tangent, but I still think it's relevant.
No tangents in the trouble show. Like, we just talk about what needs to be talked about. So look, a couple of things coming up for me. One is, you mentioned, wouldn't it be great if we were blind to all the differences and we just saw the people and we just got on? And I really loved that. When I think about, if you look at other, things in society, I look at happy people I know, and it may or may not be related to the amount of money they have or the amount of things they have. They can be an inherently happy person. I look at many of the smiling faces that you see in Africa and other places when I'm traveling around the world. I love your point around we're all on a journey, and who am I to judge how challenging or how awful or whatever your journey is? I have many, many friends and acquaintances who might look perfect, whatever that means, and boy, are they fractured and, inside and, unworthy. Like these feelings of incompleteness or these feelings of happiness and joy and being human sometimes are quite irrelevant to what we see, what we see and what we're judging and the assumptions that sit around that. So I just wanted to make those points as well. And I love how you've boiled this down to what are you here for? What do you want to bowl over and how are we going to do it? You know what I mean? Like I just love going straight to what are you looking for? Like tell me why you're here rather than this whole you're in the wrong spot, you clearly don't belong in around here and obvious and I'm really sorry. Like it's just a completely different, it's a fork in the road, right? It's like people are here for a reason. Let's just find out what it is and let's find a way forward. That's
Yeah.
kind of it, right?
I was going to the gym. I mean, circumstances changed. COVID happened, and my
Right.
trainer left the industry, and we all know what happened to the fitness industry during COVID. We pivoted, but when I was going to the gym, I would get a lot. The gym was great. I made lifelong friendships there. Like I say that I have brothers from there that I never had because I grew up having a sister. At the end of the day, I'm at the gym to do what I feel I need to do for my body and my mind and what I want to do. And I don't need others' judgments to distract me. And I find that there's a lot of, I think it's, again, it goes back to coming from a place of not knowing.
Right.
Not knowing, which is kind of really a shame if you think about it, and very embarrassing to say that people don't know how to interact with people that have differences from them, because isn't that like the very foundational thing of like good parenting and like as you grow up you interact with different people and there should be no difference in how you perceive other people, but I think it comes from that. And what I've seen within the fitness space is there's a lot of, oh, like I said, the assumptions of, oh, you can't do that, or oh, that must be so hard because you have these limitations. Like, for example, I have scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine, which really like threw my balance off further, even though my balance was already impaired due to my cerebral palsy. But I'm still there, and I still learn how to squat, and I'm still working on weighted squats, and I'm still, doing pull-ups and, doing other drills. Like, it doesn't matter what I have and what my limitations are if I'm in the gym. And what I really work to encourage um, other professionals to understand is if your client is there, if they have a challenge, allow them to be there and create a safe space, for them to actually feel comfortable and confident training and not limited more than they are by their limitations that they already know about.
Yeah.
So again, I do that through the use of the ebook, through one-on-one consultative sessions with clients that I work with. And again, I'm to be that educator, continue to be that educator within the industry. And I'm looking for more corporate wellness opportunities to really educate from an informed perspective on DEI. So hiring somebody like me who actually has a disability to consult with and to do educational training with is very different than hiring someone who does not have that lived experience. Um, and through my nonprofit organization, Flex for Access, I think and my hope is that we can continue to build capacity and build more robust partnerships with athletes and kinesiologists, anybody who's in the field of health promotion to facilitate more of these opportunities. So, what our organization does is funding that's raised for Flex for Access goes towards facilitating adaptive fitness-based training sessions, sports programs here in Canada and in the province of Ontario where I'm based in, and also towards the purchase of adaptive exercise equipment. And even around equipment, there's such a extensive conversation we can have because I think that a lot of industry professionals and other healthcare professionals might not even be aware of the fact that there are so many pieces of equipment that are adaptive that could serve the individuals who are part of special populations to actually fully be able to engage in programming within a gym.
Briefly touch on corporate because I know that's something that we wanted to touch on, and then we're going to go to a little game of called access granted or denied. So, what's happening in corporate and what needs to happen?
Back to the conversation we were having at the beginning of this podcast, where there's a buzz around diversity, equity, inclusion. Again, depending on where you are in the world, I'll put it that way because there's a lot that's being changed right now in certain parts of the world. But it's around more gender and race, I feel, and policies relating to employment. But again, when we look at individuals who are part of special populations, we are not, for the most part, seeing individuals who are part of special populations within the corporate world holding jobs that are meaningful jobs. Full transparency, I can share this from personal experience. Most people have to rely on social assistants that have physical disabilities or other disabilities. And from that end, a lot of the support is being cut or modified because of funding cuts, again, depending on where you are in the world, in the corporate world. And why? If we're talking about making the space more equitable and policies that are more inclusive and communication that's more inclusive, why is it such a problem to have an employee work full-time remote? And why does it matter if they have a physical disability if they're working for you in a communications capacity? Seeing, and then from a workplace wellness or corporate wellness perspective, what we see is there's a lot of attention that's being allocated to ergonomics of like providing wellness breaks for mental health. And for example, like wellness breaks relating to yoga, or meditation, for example. But what I want to know, and I know from the work that I've done, many gaps still that exist in servicing individuals who are part of special populations, having mental health education and programming that's focused on them, and modifying meditation protocols, for example, to an individual who has a physical disability who can use visualization to actually physically make improvements to their condition. Curious about and what I would like to be doing more work in is relating to DEI, but more specifically to adaptive fitness. What do professionals and what do corporations know about modifying programming for these individuals who need it? The answer is it's probably not very much, which is where I see and recognize that my work comes in on educating corporations around wellness, physical and emotional, for individuals who are part of special populations. And then I also work as a medical writer and editor. And I think that there's a lot that's missing from knowledge translation, as it's called in the field, or knowledge mobilization, which is basically taking information and making it easily digestible for the general public or the um, the part of the demographics that you're working with in the services and in resources available to these individuals. So I think through working with me, that gap can be hopefully closed more and more.
Close, yeah. And surely with AI too, once we build up the medical literature and, some of the, I guess, industry literature as well, surely being able to adapt things is going to get easier too. If you can just say, look, here's the situation, here's how it's presenting, what do we need to change and things like that. Like we're seeing with programming, music, editing playlists, like we're beginning to see that aspect as well. So presumably it's going to get easier. That whole barrier of, oh my God, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, what's the knowledge, like presumably that will get accelerated in some degree. You've still got to have a human hand guiding, but
A little bit fearful, maybe call me old school, of, eliminating the person completely or the
no.
professional completely, because they don't have that embodied knowledge and embodied experience,
No,
right? So we have to be careful with that. And especially when it's relating to health and wellness, over in that sense, because you want that human factor, you as people, we need the human touch of professionals to help us feel better. And if AI takes over, where, how are the gaps going to continue to be closed? And where are the dangers of, and also another factor is, and something that I've heard a lot from clients and from individuals that I've befriended who have challenges is, they're already afraid of working with an individual, right? So then if you take away that individual from working with them and are relying on AI, is that going to actually improve their retention or
no, not
like
at all. But I was thinking more about the education of and some of the programming support. Because at the moment, if I have a large membership, of which case I'm dealing with a few people here and a few people there, like those resources, it can get very expensive when you're bringing in trainers and things like that. I'm just saying, used as a tool,
as a
certainly not replacing the
correct.
human touch. Right, we're going to do a rapid fire now. So you're going to give me either a green light or a massive red flag if you go into a gym and they present like this. So number one, this gym A, installs ramps, for example, but upper body machines are all upstairs.
Red flag.
Red flag for you. Okay, a brand posts about inclusion once a year during Disability Awareness Month.
Red flag
It's a
because
red flag.
they're not doing, I wouldn't say it's a, full on red flag because at least something, on some level there's awareness, but again, we have to be careful and assess, are they actually doing it because or they're actually, looking to make a change, or is it the cool thing to do because this is a day on the calendar?
Right. And this, I think, is one of your ones. So, a corporate wellness program offers mindfulness training but ignores specialist ergonomic seating.
Yeah, I would say red flag again.
Okay. What about if a trainer says, I don't feel comfortable training wheelchair users, for example?
I would say that's a green light or half a green light if I can give half a green
You
light.
can give half a green light because,
Because because they're being honest and coming forward and saying, I don't know how comfortable I feel. Now, if they're like, no, I don't feel comfortable at all, red flag. But if they're like, I don't feel comfortable,
and
can how can I be educated or what can I do better? Then that moves from half a green light to a full green light.
great, I love that. And my last one here, a fitness studio uses the tagline, no excuses. How do you take that from an inclusive perspective?
Um, I don't easily take offense, and I think that, none of us should be making excuses to, at the end of the day, cheat ourselves if
Right.
we are not taking care of our health and wellness and fitness, because that's what I think we're doing. So I'm not bothered by no excuses, but I think one has to be careful with who they're directly saying it to and how they're saying it.
Right.
Because you can't, like, for example, somebody can't say to me, oh, and I've been told this directly to my face, um, you use your physical challenge as an excuse not to do things. No, I don't. First of all, I'm like, I'm a go-getter and I've never allowed it to get in my way. So no. But also that's very hurtful because, there are physical limitations that I specifically have, and it's not a matter of me not wanting to do something or doing something a certain way. That's quote, not the right way to do it. My body does things a certain way, and I don't have control over certain things. So I think we really have to be careful.
Right. Into our final section. So, if you had one wish to redesign the fitness industry overnight, so if you wish this today and tomorrow it was different, what is the thing you would ask for?
Are you talking about from an equipment perspective, like from an infrastructural
No,
perspective?
I'm talking about anything at all. If you could change the fitness industry overnight, what is the one thing you would love to change?
Um, the stigma around or the challenge around having individuals that have varying abilities and varying mobility or varying abilities for that matter not being able to navigate that space. And I think that's, a multifactorial thing, like barriers, to access of a fitness space come down to the financial barrier, to the accessibility barrier infrastructurally, to the programming barrier. But I think it needs to change in the sense that if I could really know that I'm doing my work, it would be to work with more facilities that were more inclined to create spaces and facilities from a programming perspective as well that were adaptive, fully adaptive, and then also had, the cool engineered equipment to allow for programming to be enhanced. But that's step two.
Right.
Um, but what I would wish for is for there not to be such a stigma and a challenge for the individual who's trying to access the space
Yes.
where like they're afraid to do it, but then also on the professional side, and
Right.
also for healthcare professionals not to be so hesitant. I would say this would be number one for me. For
Right.
healthcare professionals, not to be so hesitant to recommend to an individual that has a physical disability, hey, you should really try to find yourself a trainer or a kinesiologist that you could work with because that for me was life changing. And I'll tell you that it was so hard because I had to find it on my own. And
Right.
if they could be more of a intermediary to making that happen more easily, and if financially it could be more accessible to people that have varying abilities, that would be the first thing I would wish for.
Great, I love that. And the word coming up for me is curious. If we could be more curious around finding solutions rather than fearful that we didn't have the module or whatever, we ask, we ascertain, we ask the person, we don't assume, and then we actually work towards something together. Right, we're going to talk about your event and close out shortly, but before we do that, I've got 4 rapid fire questions for you. So, number 1, would you rather power up a steep hill or host a panel with 0 accessible mics?
Power up a steep hill.
Sounds great. Number 2, would you rather tell your deepest secret on national television or let a stranger design your next tattoo?
My deepest secret on national television.
I love it. Number 3, would you eat a live bug or the world's hottest chili pepper?
Hottest chili pepper, hands down.
Totally, I'm the same. And number 4, what is the most rebellious thing you've ever done to make a point about inclusion?
I have called out some of the largest fitness industry leaders in Canada to say that they are not doing enough or that their knowledge needs to kind of pivot to really include the informed perspective, and not been afraid to do that. And also, I would say another part of that kind of rebellious, like what I've done to be a rebel is gone on national television and shared my adaptive fitness journey and talked about the work of my nonprofit organization to disrupt to be disruptive in the sense of not enough is being done. And we need to flip the script from, oh, you're so inspirational to, no, there are things that need to actually be changed. And here's how I want them to be changed. And here's how we should work together to change them.
So it's not just getting all excited about something, it's actually turning that into action, adversity into advocacy, and chaos into change. So really thank you for bringing that thought to the show. So we're going to talk about what's happening in April shortly. If it hadn't been fitness, what would you have done?
I knew since I was 6 years old that I wanted to be a writer.
Right.
So I went on to university to pursue communications and got a degree in English literature. So if it's not for fitness, it would be for communications and storytelling, which I'm also still doing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So yeah, you're living the dream. Right. Tell us about April. What's happening in April? Who needs to be there? What's it for?
So in April, Flex for Access is hosting its fifth fundraiser in person called Redefine, Reimagine, Reignite. And initially, the intention of this fundraiser was to be specifically only for fitness industry professionals, where we would gather in a room at a beautiful venue in Vaughan. And they would learn about the work of my organization and how Flex for Access is closing the gaps around adaptive fitness, how they all need to work with Flex for Access to continue to close the gaps around communication, around programming, and how they can actually make their facilities more adaptive and inclusive. But rather than only focusing on professionals, we're now going to open it up to the community that supports us as well. Some of our donors and our sponsors that have supported us throughout the years, and looking to build that. So this event is to have like live breakout sessions where we would split up into smaller groups and have discussions around social impact, around adaptive fitness, around what professionals have already done, what they're looking to do more of. And I would have specific questions on a PowerPoint presentation that we would facilitate. And then also have speakers speaking from their, like professionals speaking from their vantage points of expertise to say, here's what I think on this point, here's what I've done, and here's what I want to learn. And we're also going to have live entertainment at the fundraiser. Actually, a electric violinist who's previously performed for John Legend
Oh,
and John Bon Jovi is hopefully scheduled to be at the event. So really looking forward to that for some live entertainment. We're also going to be having a silent auction. So the silent auction will hopefully help us also fundraise more with some really exciting prizes as well. And it'll really be an opportunity for fitness industry professionals who already know of my work to further engage with Flex for Access, but also for new industry professionals to learn about why they should be engaging with Flex for Access, how the organization, in addition to my adaptive fitness consulting work and corporate wellness work, could provide them and would provide them with a value add to close the gaps around adaptive fitness and health promotion. And I really want to kind of deconstruct the notion of wellness and how it's not prioritized typically for individuals who are part of special populations. So the event is happening on April 23rd, which is a Thursday, in Vaughan, in Toronto, Canada, and tickets are available for sale on Flex for Access's website. I'm really hoping, I mean, I know it's early, we're only in October right now, but I'm really hoping that we can, through appearances like this, leverage our attendeeship for the event. I really want to continue to be in conversation with fitness industry professionals like yourself. And I think it's a really important time for the industry to come together to recognize that we have done a lot, but there's a lot more that needs to be done to fully provide opportunities for individuals who are part of the populations that need exercise the most in order to really, make changes, meaningful change to their lives and improve. So I
totally.
hope everybody will be able to, or a lot of people will be able to join our event on April 23rd. So the information is on FlexFrax's website, www.flexfraxis.ca, and the organization can be followed at Flex for Access on social media. It's all lowercase. And then I can also be followed at Jess Silver with three S's and three R's on Instagram as well. And I'm hoping that some of you will connect with me for corporate wellness, education opportunities, and adaptive fitness consulting.
That's great, Jess. And I just wanted to thank you so much. In our short time that we've known each other, you've managed to open my eyes and just make it a lot more palatable, digestible, easy to get into this conversation, and also to be thinking like I go straight to equipment companies and anyone who's creating anything. We should be creating broader, like thinking about the whole thing, not just, how do we converge too quickly. And so it's really opening up the way that I look at the world. But I want to thank you for being a rebel. I want to thank you for stepping up and, bringing it to the institutions and perhaps those that are generally doing good in the world, but perhaps just need a little bit of adjustment in terms of, broadening that reach out to the people there, to the people that we're not seeing in our clubs because they're not welcome, they're not feeling like they can come in and certainly, get over whatever their barriers they are. We all have barriers, we know that. But I just wanted to thank you. This has been an incredible discussion. You're very, very passionate and very knowledgeable in this area.
Well, I look forward to being in touch. Thank you all to all the viewers who are watching this podcast or will be watching this podcast. I'm really hoping that we can continue to engage in meaningful conversation. But like we said, further than the conversation. We need to move from talking about something and acknowledging it to actually actioning it
Yes.
into change and realizing that regardless of where you are and who you are as a fitness professional, you can be part of a change and make a change, even if it is a small change. And if everybody can stay strong and flexing, I would appreciate that. And follow Flex for Access on social media at Flex for Access. Like I said, the handle is, and if I could see some of you flexing your bicep in support of Flex for Access's work and using the hashtag Flex for Access on your posts, that would be great. And if any of you would be interested in learning about how you can donate or already interested in donating, the donations can be made at www.flexforaccess.ca and hitting our donation button. Thank you so much.
Yay! Thank you. Have a terrific week, everybody, wherever you are. Go and make change. Don't just talk about it, and go out there and create a little bit of trouble. Thank you so much, Jess.
Thank you. Thank you.